Look, we haven't played like a playoff team. And I think that's the reality of how we've played here through the first 50 games. That doesn't mean we won't, but we've got to show it. And I think we have a group of players very committed to that goal, that is determined to play better. But until we show it, it's a reasonable question.
Anthony?
How long is the runway for that in your eyes? Like, when do you need to sort of make a decision as to what you want to do or not do with this roster going forward?
I think the baseball calendar provides the roadmap for that. And so generally the trade deadline becomes an inflection point in the season, and we've got plenty of time before that. Throughout the month of July, you are preparing for the deadline and having conversations. I think every single year takes on a little bit of a different pace. Every single year takes on a little bit of a different character for a deadline, but throughout the month of July, you're preparing. You also don't need to make decisions until the end of the month. So we'll continue to evaluate where we are.
John?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the acquisitions you made in the winter, many of them one-year deals, have generally panned out probably to your expectation. Severino, Bader, Minaya, Lopez. Many of the holdover stars have not really performed. Have you noticed this? Do you expect more out of those guys that I'm talking? I mean, obviously who they are, Lindor, Diaz, etc. Will you have a higher expectation for them to perform going
I think
forward?
they have higher expectations of themselves. These are players who have really quality and at times elite track records in this league. And at periods of the year, we have some guys who have struggled, and great players, top players fight through that. I think our guys will. And I think they would expect, and I would expect that when we look up at the end of the year, they're going to have seasons that more greatly resemble the types of players they've been throughout their careers. Well, we haven't played well enough. And I think everyone associated with us would acknowledge that, and similarly acknowledge that we've continued to fight. I think our guys have continued to prepare very well and are doing what they can within their control to set themselves up for success. And as an organization, we're doing what we can to set them up for success, but we haven't won enough games. And we certainly recognize that that's going to need to change.
You talked about the 45 game mark earlier in the season. At this point, what are some of the strengths? What are some of the weaknesses that you've identified? What are some areas that you want to improve with this team?
I think throughout our team, more or less with every segment of our team, we've had periods of this year where we've played at very high levels, and we've had periods of this year that we haven't. And so I think as I look at our team as a whole, what we're seeking is more consistency. And we've had challenges at times during the course of the year of lining up all phases of our team at the same night. So we've had some really good starts where we haven't hit. We've had some days where we've strung together really competitive at-bats, where we probably haven't pitched quite well enough, or where we've had defensive lapses that have cost us runs and ultimately cost us games. I'm not saying anything revelatory here, but we just need to play more consistent baseball in all facets of the game.
The majority of this team was in place before you came on board, a lot of the core members and stuff. How much does that impact what you're trying to do this time of year? I mean, I'm guessing that you know these players well enough at this point, or, you know, is there a way to put your own kind of imprint on the team moving forward? How do you view that?
It doesn't matter to me at all whether players existed here before I got here or whether there were transactions that I made to get players here. I'm not looking to put my imprint on anything. I'm looking to help create an organization that's going to win a lot of games for a long time. And I think there were players that were here before I got here who are going to help us do that. And there are players that I've brought in and will continue to bring in that hopefully should help the cause as well.
How do you view Pete Alonso and his situation right now, a couple months ahead of the trade deadline?
Nothing's changed with Pete's situation. Our goal on a daily basis is to help Pete succeed as much as he possibly can so that we can win as many games as possible. And that's That's where I expect we'll continue to be.
You guys have a better sense of when Jett Williams will be back, or what he's up to right now?
So Jett is got a second cortisone injection, continuing his rehab process. Don't have a definitive time frame there. We'll probably know more there in the next week to 10 days to see how he responds to this.
What is the injury exactly with the wrist?
He's got, I'd have to get back to you on exactly what we're calling it, but he's got he's got soreness in his wrist that has actually persisted since I think right after spring training.
Why was the second injection necessary?
Because the soreness didn't calm down.
Just
after
because
the
it
first
didn't
one.
go away?
Yep.
But you're confident there's nothing more than just soreness going on in there?
Look, when you're injecting because there's an injury you're trying to calm down. So if the second injection doesn't work, we're gonna have to look at what more we can do to help him.
Is surgery an option?
I think if the injections do not work, that's something that we would ultimately have to consider.